Hi everyone, I'm Yana Smakula for SimonsSTM.com. Welcome to another Yeepy for Yana episode. In this video, I'm creating a Christmas card in a slimline size featuring the stunning Warmth and Wonder stamp set from Simon. But before we get started, please join me in the comments and tell me, when was the last time, if ever, you made a slimline or a mini slimline card? I would love to know. Comment below. By the way, all supplies I'm using for this project are listed and linked in the video description below for your convenience. So here's a look at the main supplies I will be using. This is the stunning Warmth and Wonder stamp set from Simon Says Stamp. This is a large 6x8 set, and it is a layering set. It has 5 layering images, all pretty good size, perfect for some fabulous Christmas card making. I'm also going to be using the Tree Plate Greetings, a mini stamp set from Kathy Zilski, and this is a set with fantastic sentiments. Now, the Warmth and Wonder set has sentiments included, but the orientation of these sentiments are slightly different. They're, multiple line sentiments, and I wanted to have a one line sentiment for my card. So this is why I brought this additional stamp set. Let's go ahead and get started. So here's an up close look at the Warmth and Wonder set. I'm going to start by stamping the sleigh. Now the stamp set is designed in a very clever way because all of the images are clearly marked for you. First, we're using the C1 and the C2 images to stamp the sleigh. I'm going to start with the C1 and stamp this in brown ink. I have my Mini Misty stamping tool. I also have a sheet of Nina Solar White 80-pound cardstock placed inside the Misty, and I'm going to stamp this image or this layer using Simon Says Stamp Cocoa ink, which is a nice dark brown. I want my sleigh to look like it's a wooden sleigh, like one of those vintage sleighs. So I'm using cocoa to mimic wood. I am double stamping. This is more of a habit for me. You really don't need to do double stamping, especially if you have well-inked and well-seasoned stamps. My stamps are already seasoned because I did test this design before I started filming. So I've already stamped a couple of images using these images once. But if your stamps are brand new, I recommend you use a pencil eraser and simply rub the surface of the stamp with a pencil eraser to remove any leftover residue. There sometimes is residue that is left from the manufacturing process, and if you remove it, it makes stamping go a lot better. You get much better impressions and just better results. Next, I'm stamping the C2 layer, and for this, I'm using Cranberry ink. This is a fantastic, vibrant red ink, absolutely perfect for Christmas. It's actually one of my favorite colors for Christmas stamping, and our slate is done. Take a look. Isn't that gorgeous? I love it. I'm going to pop this paper back inside my Misty, clean my stamp, and do some additional stamping on this piece of paper because I still have room there and I don't want to waste my paper. Now we have a little bow in this set, in this stamp set, and the bow layers are D1 and D2. I'm going to stamp both of these using muted green. I'm going to go with Eucalyptus for the light muted green layer and then Juniper for the dark muted green layer. Now the bow, it's just a bow. It can be used over and over again for many different occasion cards. It doesn't have to be a Christmas bow. It can be a birthday bow. It can be a bow on a bouquet. It can be a bow on a birthday card. It can just be a bow on a card. It, again, doesn't have to be Christmas. So remember about this image, remember this bow, and take a note of it and come back to it when you're creating a different card, not a Christmas card, because this is such a pretty bow design. I feel like it should be used over and over again for many different cards. So again, I'm using Eucalyptus for the front layer and then Juniper for the back layer, and we have a beautiful multicolor bow created. Next, we're going to stamp some flowers. I first wanted to say poinsettias, but no, these are not exactly poinsettias. I would say that these are anemones. At least they look like anemones to me. So we're going to stamp some anemones. The anemone image has 3 layers. There is B1, B2, and B3 layers. I'm actually going to start with the B2 layer. This is the largest layer in this grouping. And to me, this just makes more sense in terms of aligning the other layers on my image. So I'm starting with the B2 and I'm stamping this using Pearfection ink. This is a layer with leaves and branches, so this green works really well here. Now, go ahead and grab your blending brush because we're going to do a little bit of shading here. My leaves look fantastic as is, but I want to add a little bit of color variation here. I want to add a little bit of shading to the base of the leaves. So I'm going to do that with the help of a blending brush and a darker green ink. I'm using Pine and a detailed blending brush, or rather a small blending brush from Simon Says Stamp. I'm lightly tapping the blending brush. I pick up a little bit of ink from the ink pad with my blending brush, and then I just lightly tap with the blending brush at the base of the leaves where I want to add a little bit of that darker green. I do that, I close the lid of my MISTI, and I add additional color to my stamped image. I add that beautiful dark green, and it looks beautiful. We will need more than 1 flower cluster for this card. We will actually need 3, so I would suggest you go ahead and stamp all of these images, or like all 3 clusters at the same time. I'm going to show you how easy it is to stamp them by simply rotating your paper. As you can see, I have a panel. This is again the same Neenah Solar White 80-pound cardstock. This is half of an A2 sheet. So I had a 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch sheet cut in half, and this is that half. And I'm able to fit 2 flower clusters on here. And I can just rotate the paper while keeping the stamp on the lid of my MISTI. I'm not repositioning anything. I just rotate the paper, and that makes it very easy for me to stamp multiple images. I'm going to show you how I'm stamping 2, but you will need 3. I do have additional images stamped because, like I said, I did test this design prior to hitting record, and I do have extra floral clusters that I can use for this card, but you will need 3. So next, I'm stamping the flower, and this is the B1 layer. And for this, I'm using Cranberry, that beautiful, vibrant red. Once again, I want to add some detail, some shading, darker red to the center of my flower. And I'm doing that, again, with the help of a detailed blending brush or a small blending brush and Sangria ink, which is a nice, darker red from Simon Says Stamp. You can go darker, you can go lighter, you can have white flowers, yellow flowers, totally up to you what color combination you want to go with. I really wanted to do a classic color combo for my card. I wanted to have green, I wanted to have red, and I wanted to have white. So a true Christmas color combination. Okay, I am almost done stamping my second flower. Again, I stamped it using Cranberry and Sangria. I'm showing you everything twice just so that you can understand the process a little bit better. With the flower stamp, we now have the 3rd layer left to do, and the 3rd layer creates the flower center as well as the berries on the little branches that create this beautiful floral cluster. You can stamp these all in 1 ink color, but I wanted to have a little bit of color variation on my card. So I once again reached for my blending brushes. And here I'm using a blending brush and a black ink. This is a Versaclear ink from Simon Says Stamp. And I'm only inking up the flower center. You can notice that I'm not stamping the berries just yet. The detail blending brush is small enough so that I'm able to ink up just the flower center. I don't need to do any masking. I don't need to be overly careful when I do my inking, and it all works out beautifully. With the flower centers done, I then stamp the berries, and for the berries, I'm using Sangria. On the finished card, you will see that this is, while this is a darker red, it is also a more muted red. With all of the stamping done, go ahead and use the coordinating dies to cut these images out. There is a coordinating die set available, and I highly recommend it because you will want to cut these beauties out whenever you make your cards. I did cut additional layers, blank layers for the sleigh and for the bow. I like to do that whenever I pop things up. I knew that I will be foam mounting the sleigh on my card, and I also knew that I'll be foam mounting the bow. And whenever I have layers like that, I just like to back them up with another layer of cardstock to make these a little bit more sturdier and substantial for my card. I also have a card base already created, and I used a new color of cardstock from Simon Says Stamp. This is Seafoam. It is such a beautiful color. The card base measures 3.5 by 6.5 inches. I also have a white cardstock panel. This is cut to 3.25 by 6.25 inches. I'm going to foam mount that panel onto my card base. I did stamp a greeting at the bottom of the panel. That's where that tree plate greetings stamp set from Kathy Zilski came into play. I really wanted to have a super skinny sentiment here, so I stamped Season's Greetings using Versaclear black ink from Simon. And now I'm adding foam adhesive from the back of the sleigh. I used foam adhesive tape from Alt New, and then I used thin foam adhesive squares from the back of the bow to foam mount that onto the sleigh. Going to foam mount my panel onto the card base, like so. And next I'm going to play with the element placement. I need to first center this on my work surface. I'm using some magnets to help me hold my card base in place. And next, going to position the flowers and the sleigh in the center. Once I'm happy with the placement, I'm going to remove the backer from the adhesive tape from the sleigh and place it over the flowers. This is going to pick up the flowers, stick to the flowers. Now I can flip it to the back, add glue to the flower centers, or like to the center of the flower die cuts, and position that on my card. I didn't mention this, but I also created little additional elements. In this stamp set, you have little stamps to stamp pine needles and like additional branches, and I stamped those using the Juniper and Eucalyptus inks. I cut those out as well using the coordinating dies, and now I'm just going to add them here and there to make my floral arrangements slightly fuller and fill this background in with additional foliage. I love to do this, and you can add as many of these pieces as you like, or as little as you like, or you can totally skip them. If you want, you could also stamp the flowers directly onto the panel and skip the die cutting, but I wanted to make sure to do the die cutting because I wanted to tuck those little pine needles behind the floral clusters. Finally, I'm using a little star or a little snowflake image from this stamp set, and I'm going to stamp it 3 times around my sleigh in black ink. And I feel like this is the most perfect finishing touch. You will notice that I skipped adding gems or jewels or sequins or any other embellishments to this card because I wanted to keep it simple. But you certainly can add additional bling if you want to. So here's a look at the 2 Christmas cards, the mini Slimline cards I have for you today, created with a Simon Says Stamp Warmth and Wonder stamp set. Thanks so much for joining me today. I hope you feel inspired to create a mini Slimline card in your next card making session. Love you all, and I'll see you next time. Bye.
I'm Heidi, Simon's mama and founder at simonsaysstamp.com. Thank you so much for watching our video. If you like what you just saw, be sure to press the thumbs up and subscribe to see more great content.